Hey there, I'm Mr. Terry, high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher X video. All right, we're back with Holy Koolaid, and he is making fun of, I think, Americans once again. There's been a couple videos here. It's like, why the world hates America, or like, what's weird about America? And this one he just released is called, Why the World Laughs at Americans. All right, let's see what is justified here. See if me as an American history teacher gets my feelings hurt. All right, I'm going to put the original video down below. Make sure you're supporting that. Give this video a thumbs up and sub if you haven't, so you'll see more content just like this. All right, let's check it out. All right, the first frame here is, someone asking some young folks some questions. It says if you meet somebody from Brussels, I mean, these people are not going to know what Brussels is. American geography, world geography. Not a strong suit. We'll see if that's the point. All right, here we go.
If you meet somebody from Brussels, what's their nationality?
You got this. You got
Brussels sprouts. Can you name any country on this map?
Is it South Africa?
Nope.
Yeah, the country of Asia.
Nope.
Was it like Jimmy Kimmel or something used to do this kind of stuff? Now, not going to come to the aid of a lot of the geography. In fact, they've almost been cutting the amount of required geography you take. Used to be like a year-long class here where I live. And then I don't know if it's coming down to like a half year. And yeah. Now, one thing I will say, Americans do have to learn a lot about American geography. Our country's huge, right? It's big as Europe. So learning all the states and learning all that does take quite a bit of time before you start heading externally. But yes. But yeah, South Africa, wasn't a very good one. This map's already going to throw people off because people are used to not the Pacific Ocean being the middle, of course. We also have one of the very skewed Mercator maps where like Greenland is like as big as North America and Russia is way too stretched out. Africa way smaller than it actually is, but it's all right.
That's a continent.
What country do you think this is?
IKEA.
What continent is Saudi Arabia in?
Wait, what continent is it in?
Yeah.
What are continents again?
Are Americans actually stupid, or does the rest of the world just really enjoy believing that we are?
What is Obama's last name?
Obama. Care. Like,
No. I was like, hey, it's kind of a question where if somebody's on the spot that might be like, oh, Obama. That means he's insinuating it's his first name. So I better think of something else, but I got to hear this again.
C-A-R-E. Care. Like C-A-R-E.
Obama's last name, the president.
Care.
I am an American who grew up overseas, so
Obama, his last name's Care. Obamacare, Affordable Health Care Act that kind of got named Obamacare. Oh, no. Good thing I know every teacher in America, and I can go ahead and tell her teachers that she's got to, get some credits revoked.
I have heard this stereotype my entire life. Every single dumb American joke, including the ones that people made in another language because they assumed I couldn't understand them. So today I want to break down the 8 reasons that it exists and how much of it is actually
lived abroad,
as well as explore the real question hiding underneath. How exactly did we get here?
Are they going to show any of the smart people? You're gonna get smart people.
Number 1, geographic and global ignorance.
As a teacher, I'll take some blame.
As far as on the map, up here somewhere.
What's the capital of the United States?
As far as
What is she trying to find?
1, geographic and global ignorance.
where exactly in North Korea? As far as on the map.
It's too fast. Is Israel? Is it
What's the
Israel?
capital of the United States?
California. There's no capital of the United States.
Any country.
I know.
And on the entire map.
This is so horrible.
Where's America?
I would say this big one, but I'm probably wrong.
What country is the Amazon rainforest in?
No, it's not. What country?
Dude over here on the right was like Florida. Yeah. Not a country. And not correct.
Europe.
Yeah, the country?
Europe is a country.
Yeah,
right?
Okay. Yeah, I was just making sure.
I would say
Africa. Can you name 3 countries in Africa?
Nigeria. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, that's the one. And the last one also W?
Oh, Wakanda.
In Central Africa.
I am sure.
I do think that is something you could easily convince somebody, even if they're like, wait, Wakanda? I thought that was like a movie. You could easily tell American for sure that Wakanda is a real place.
Sure, you have seen these kind of clips all over the internet, and they go viral worldwide because they confirm a suspicion that the rest of the world already has.
Africa?
That's a continent.
Oh, God.
That
At least she
Americans
pointed to
are
Africa.
raised to see the United States as the center of everything, and the other 190-something countries are just background wallpaper, if you will. And I think what really drives the rest of the world nuts here is the massive asymmetry, because a teenager in Jakarta can name the US president, explain the difference between Democrats and Republicans, and tell you why an American election matters to their own economy. While
I guess I could see that, especially somewhere like Indonesia, which has a lot of economic history with the United States. We got to have the control group here, and like for our experiment here, and get some people from some other countries, especially large countries are going to take a lot of, study. How about like Russia? Let's get some Russians, and not just like Muscovite Russians, but like, I don't know, regular old Russian. See how they would do. Still probably better, but globally, especially.
41% of Americans couldn't even name their own vice president, let alone the chancellor of Germany. They can cite off every single Kardashian, but not tell you a single sitting Supreme Court justice. But we'll circle back to that. Now, in defense of Americans, there are a few factors at play here. The first of which being geography. The US sits between 2 oceans, isolated from Europe, Africa, and Asia, thanks to a heaping pile of gigawater.
Yeah. I was going to say, you interact with a lot more people. It's one reason why Americans, routinely don't know other languages. And it's because you don't really interact with people that have other languages or other backgrounds. So you don't really learn about a lot of people.
Your average American can't just drop a few $1,000s to go country hopping across a continent, compared to
Most
say
will probably
kid in
never go to
Belgium
Europe
who
in their
can
life.
sneeze and end up in 3 different countries before lunch. Geography is a lot easier when you can hop on a train and visit a neighboring country for the cost of a sandwich.
Go
when
anywhere
your entire country is
in a weekend.
smaller than one of our states. Seriously, you could drop France, Germany, and the UK into Alaska and still have room to plop Italy in next to them. And second, American ignorance about the rest of the world is largely by design. See, a population that doesn't know how the rest of the world lives is a population that doesn't know what it's missing. If you've never seen that other countries have healthcare without bankruptcy,
So this is where we'd have to insinuate that it is intentional from something. School boards are the ones that really control curriculums, and state departments of education, which in the United States are made up of elected people. So it comes from society, but there can be legislative things, but a lot more comes from those school boards than legislations. But it's both, though. They both work with each other.
Vacation measured in weeks or months, and college that doesn't cost you a house.
Think it's intentional?
then You'll never demand
They'll
it.
like these other
American
countries?
ignorance of the outside world is extremely useful to those who benefit from said ignorance. Number 2, loud overconfidence.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that's an intentional thing? And then who would it come from that would ultimately have the power to intentionally not want to teach about geography, politics? Now, I will say, because I've seen it as a teacher of 15 years in the public school system, that there have been discussions of cutting down some of the history requirements. And one of those being world history. You will be more likely, if you have to cut credits, if we push for more electives, maybe vocational training, stuff like that, which I love vocational high schools and stuff like that. But if you have to give up something for that to fill more space into a student schedule so they can take, again, more vocational things, some core subjects will probably have to be taken away from. And one of the ones that gets talked about is from social studies. And because you take a social studies class here every year in junior high all the way through high school. But the one that gets talked about the most of reducing is world history. It's a lot more likely than U.S. history. In U.S. history, you're going to, between junior high and high school, you're going to take, where I live, 2 full years of American history, and then you're going to take a half year of American government, which actually next year is, where I live, U.S. government is expanding to a full year. But the takeaway will likely be at some point, if it has to happen, world history, which I believe is really sad, especially as the world becomes more global. But I don't know. I mean, I can ask you guys, if we need to reduce some of the requirements of what we consider core classes in the United States, okay, we have to. What do you think it should come from? Is it math? Is it our language arts, English classes, social studies? I don't know. Where would you kind of rank those, I guess?
Confidence. This is probably
loud over what?
Number 2,
Confidence.
loud overconfidence.
Sure.
This is probably what the world
World War
notices
champ.
most, and thus it's the biggest driver of the American idiot stereotype. Look, everyone.
Wait, what did it say? There's never been another nation ever that has existed much beyond 250 years. Not a single one. America's 250th year. We just hit 250 years in the U.S. The next 4 years are going to be pretty interesting considering everything that's already been said. Yeah, this couldn't be further from the truth. And what the guy said,
the biggest
I have
driver
roads.
of the
We have
American
roads.
idiot stereotype.
Yeah. Or my local pub is old in your country. And say there are roads that are a lot older than the US you could walk.
Look, everyone has knowledge gaps, and that's okay. But the American specialty is combining ignorance with certainty, loudly blurting out bullshit like we're the Dunning-Kruger incarnate. It is the verbal equivalent of a man who farts with the confidence of someone who has never before shit their pants.
Whoa.
It's the guy who has never left Utah explaining what Europe is like to an actual...
I love these type of maps where it's like, what Americans think of the rest of the world. Wait, this isn't all England? Get us fighting more Guinness. Paris, France is just Paris. Spain 2.0 for Portugal. Slovenia. Don't know what Turkey is. Definitely Russia. Got that. IKEA is just all those.
European, or the tourist who walks into a Bouchon in Lyon or a trattoria in Rome and asks where the real food is while searching for McDonald's, or the loud American in Paris who, when encountering someone who doesn't speak English for the first time in their adult life, simply repeats the English words slower and louder as if sheer volume will magically install subtitles directly into the listener's brain. Now, before Europeans laugh too hard, have you met British tourists in Spain? Or have you seen a shit-faced Australian having a stag do in Bali? Or
that's isn't that the stereotype? Like the British tourists are just American light.
Had to elbow your way through a busload of Chinese tourists in Thailand? The nightmare tourist is a universal species. And while I genuinely can't defend this one, there is a reason why Americans don't learn other languages. And it's the exact same reason that the Brits and the Aussies don't. English, 1. It's the language of business, science, aviation, and the internet.
You can get by perfectly fine in the business world, in any field, and not know one word of another language in the US, just how it is. A lot of people know our language. And again, we don't really interact with a lot of people within our country that have other languages. Spanish being the biggest one, but most people that come in, if they know Spanish, because they moved into the country, and then eventually, of course, learn English.
English, 1. It's the language of business, science, aviation, and the internet. When the entire world is busy learning your language, the incentive to learn theirs kind of evaporates. It's more convenience than stupidity. And on top of that, high school and college language classes in the US suck. Seriously, verb conjugation tables? Kill me now. Useless fill-in-the-blank homework exercises, and apps barking at you to translate ridiculous phrases for the 100th time, which
it's kind of hard to learn a new language in the US because obviously you learn a language by being immersed in it, because it starts to literally like rewire your brain. We really don't have that. Best you can do is speak to somebody else that doesn't know it, like in your for a few minutes of one of your classes. But yeah, if you want to really immerse yourself, it's going to be extremely difficult. In Europe, yeah, you probably could, it's much easier to immerse yourself in another language. You can go not far away from it, and there's going to be more people that speak that language, potentially. Big difference here in the US would be Spanish. One thing you could probably learn decently in the US, depending on what part of the US you live, actually.
No human since Mitch McConnell has ever said out loud before.
La chouette verte suce des couilles.
That is how you get people who studied 4 years of Spanish and can only ask you where the library is.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Nobody absorbs a language that way. Real humans acquire languages the way a kid does, by hearing it in context, in stories, in shows you actually want to watch. Which is why I recommend today's sponsor, LingoPie. See, instead of treating language like homework, LingoPie lets you learn by watching real TV shows and movies from the countries where it's actually spoken.
They show the one that I did, The Little Death. Is that the one I watched? I'm not
So
getting
you're
paid
not
for this, but
memorizing how some text.
there was one that was like it was in Spanish, and it was like historical figures. By the way, if you're interested in, I guess, learning other languages too, one of the best ways to do it is honestly watch kid shows and read children's books. Children's books and children's TV shows, we often think like, oh, that's just so easy and simple to like to write, but understand for like a children's book or again a children's show, a child's vocabulary is going to be pretty low, so you have to be really good at teaching context within the story, that it may be a new word that appears, but because of how the story's told and what else has been going on and artwork and visuals, it can teach like that. So it actually takes a lot of skill to be able to tell whole stories actually in few words. So I've heard that from a lot of people that, if you're going to another country, honestly, reading kids' books is a good way to do it, because in a way you're kind of like a kid when it comes to learning a language.
Book writing nerd thinks that people speak. You're hearing how they actually talk, slang and all. And the moment that you don't recognize a word, you just tap it, you get instant translation,
okay, yeah,
and LegalPie auto-saves it for later review.
Was...
There's an AI coach that explains tricky grammar in context, and a pronunciation tool that listens to you speak and gives you feedback, so you don't end up accidentally loudly ordering a horse when you meant to ask for the bill. They've got over 3,000 shows and movies across 14 different languages, and it works on your laptop, phone, and smart TV. I actually bought their lifetime subscription well before they offered to sponsor the channel, so I'm pretty confident that you are going to love it too. So if you want to go from
a history one with Spanish. That was cool.
Sur le table to this.
Tu es dangereuse parce que tu rends toutes les autres femmes invisibles.
Then click the link below to get a 7-day free trial plus 55% off their annual plan. Number 3, religious fundamentalism.
Sure.
This is something that still dumbfounds me about my country.
What would be interesting about this, though, it says religious fundamentalism. Other countries that you consider religiously fundamental, do they have the same geography issue?
We have NASA and Answers in Genesis in the same nation. We can land a probe on a moving comet.
Freedom, baby.
And we also fund a museum that teaches children that humans rode dinosaurs like ponies. From the outside, American religious fundamentalism makes the entire country look medieval. Creationists fight to teach bullshit in classrooms. Televangelists with private jets run faith-healing cons and bilk millions of people, sometimes out of their entire life savings. Politicians announce that their policy ideas were handed to them personally by God, which is a bold move appealing to Jesus when the policy is about gutting food stamps to subsidize tax breaks for billionaires. Now, before any foreigners get too smug, this is not an American invention. Jesus Christ, have you seen Israel? Brazil is home to the Universal Church, one of the wealthiest faith healing operations on earth. Across Africa, filthy rich prosperity preachers fill stadiums and fly private jets while their congregants starve. The Philippines has psychic surgeons who pull tumors out of you in a sleight of hand scam where they palm a handful of chicken guts.
Oh, I've never seen that one before. That first one was nuts. What was the...
To pull tumors out of you in a sleight of hand scam where they palm a handful of chicken guts. The UK and Australia are stuffed with ghost believers, spiritualists, and psychic nonsense. France, while pretending to be rational, basically ran on homeopathy for years, which Germany invented. And astrology is basically a global religion at this point. Pseudoscience and paranormal or supernatural woo are basically universal. We just have the budget and the broadcast power to make ours impossible to miss.
We've been able to monetize it like crazy.
And it is so easy to laugh at and feel kind of smug in the process. Hell, some of my most successful videos on this channel are about psychic cringe fails or faith healing fails. Seriously, go check out those after this. You will not regret it. But there's a slightly more serious side that I want.
You know, a show I like it, or person, I guess it's a show, like he's passed away, but James Randi. He was a guy that would bring on people that had like supernatural claims or something like that, and then bring them onto a show to show it. But then he would create an environment that he think would, not allow them to do their, certain tricks. So like take away other variables, basically like scientifically test it. And his whole thing is, this show was on for years, is that if somebody could do it, actually do it, some kind of, I forget how you would define a supernatural thing or something, or magic, actual magic. They'd win like a $10,000 prize or something. And the whole famous thing was that nobody ever did it. They were able to debunk and show like in TV and make them fail at whatever their trick is. Really interesting. You could see all the clips online. James Randi, Randi.
I want to focus on for just 1 second. Think about what hardcore fundamentalism actually trains people to do. It teaches you that doubt is a sin, that questioning authority is dangerous, that faith, belief without evidence, is the highest virtue, and that skepticism is the work of the enemy. It teaches you to accept answers from authority and to feel guilty for ever wanting proof. But what if we instead ask this uncomfortable question? Who benefits from a population trained from childhood to distrust its own questions and obey anyone claiming special authority?
That's a lot. I mean, that could be a lot of people. Religious leaders, political leaders.
Isn't God.
Anybody with that
if he or she does exist, I'm pretty sure they're doing just fine. The beneficiaries are the people who need you to stop asking, to blindly follow, blindly give them your vote, or blindly fill the offering plate. A mind taught never to doubt the preacher is a mind that will never doubt the politician.
This would be the famous thing about how, you know, it was to the best interest of like medieval feudal cultures that the peasant class, you know, can't read, or that I don't know, Catholics can't read the Bible, like without, you know, learning Latin, which should be protected by the church, you know, keeping them in the dark that way. So people say, you know, and why it's justified to say how important of an invention the printing press was by Gutenberg, as it increased literacy rates. And then because of literacy, it also created more open-mindedness. It got people learning more.
The boss, the billionaire savior, or the cable news hosts that they own. Anti-intellectualism isn't a side effect of fundamentalism. For some people, it is deliberate strategy. Number 4, science denial, conspiracies, and the war on expertise.
That is an interesting one that we obviously see. Although it's always been going on, like the war on expertise. One thing we do know, and we can see the effects of probably in every country, is the war on medical expertise. I don't know if it will ever heal, based off what everybody believed about kind of what happened with COVID, about why it existed, and then the whole vaccine process. That's one thing I don't think we'll ever recover from, is that medical science, I guess, denial. What do you guys think about that?
The US by no means invented science denial, but we sure as hell perfected it. We mass produce it with terrifying efficiency and then export it to the world. Anti-vax content, climate denial, flat earth nonsense, a bottomless supply of wellness grifters selling you anti-aging supplements, cancer cures, gluten-free water, and jade rocks for your mom's vagina.
What? Wait, was that real?
Anti-aging supplements, cancer cures, gluten-free
and diet water. Genius.
Water and jade rocks for your mom's vagina.
And I get my own stem cells from my own urine. I've been doing urine therapy for years as well.
You know, one of the pee drinkers. Wait, stem cells out of urine?
Don't just drink it.
I just pee in a mason jar and I drink it. Most of my decision making is intuitive.
Why don't you eat your shit? I'm pissing out the toxins that I brought in. Why would now that go back in? And if
that's what they're saying, is like, I think I've heard this because I think conspiracies and that kind of stuff are very interesting to study, for the fact of I really more like the psychology behind conspiracists. I think that's very fascinating. And I think I've heard that one. That's like, no, it's not actually bad for you. You get it out because you're supposed to like recycle it. But the other thing I've noticed too with conspiracies is, you know, somebody that believes one usually believes in a lot, or if they only believe one, it's because they just started, I guess, being a conspiracist, and there are going to be a lot more conspiracies they get to. They're going to get to, you know, keep going to the layers of the onion, usually to whatever is supposed to lead who is in charge of all conspiracies. Insert whatever conspiratorial group you want to scapegoat. Lizard people, religious groups, whatever.
Case were true, why wouldn't our dicks be longer so we could just drink it out of the hose?
That's a great fucking question.
Because maybe you shouldn't be drinking your piss.
I think what stings most
just took a tiny bit of pushback on some of those guys. That's funny.
That the United States launched the computer revolution. We lead the world in AI. We split the atom. We put man on the freaking moon. And yet, a meaningful chunk of this same great nation has doubts about the shape of the earth. Right. Again, not unique to America. Jesus Christ, some of the conspiracy theories that I have had Uber drivers rant off to me in England and France are freaking nuts.
Now, a big reason for that, obviously, it's social media. That's why conspiracies are so big. Algorithmic social media that traps you in an algorithm loop that becomes so prevalent that you think that is what reality is.
But Americans seem to have somehow weaponized the seemingly positive phrase, do your own research. On its face,
I love that idea, because do your own research is an interesting thing, because the problem is people don't know what research is. They don't know how to vet sources. They understand like how sources come to be. And again, you bite into the algorithm, but yeah, do your research. People don't know really how to do research. That's actually something in academia, for even myself, got to get way better at, is how do you actually research?
It's great. Think for yourself. Question things. I'm a skeptic. I freaking love that. But watch how it actually gets used. Do your own research rarely means read and understand the studies. It means distrust every single expert.
Because that's one of the problems, is sometimes to do the research, you may not be equipped to do the research of something. Okay, you want to learn something that uses vocabulary, terminology, and context you've never heard. Your own intuition will never be good enough. It's like you have to learn before you could even learn in a lot of ways, right? If you want to learn about quantum mechanics, you have to do a lot of research before you can even form an opinion. And by research, I mean get taught about all the core fundamental things that are required first to learn about it. That's an interesting thing you could probably apply to a lot of the medicine. I think the medicine skepticism too is, like doing your own research. Well, what are you in the lab? Do you know how to conduct some kind of germ toxicology and like virology? You know what I mean? Well, no.
Spent 30 plus years learning the thing, and instead trust some guy on YouTube with a ring light and a supplement discount code. See, experts are inconvenient. A climate scientist is inconvenient to an oil company. Sure. A virologist or epidemiologist is inconvenient to someone selling
truth is often inconvenient.
Cures. A historian is inconvenient to a politician rewriting the past. If you can convince an entire population that all expertise is just elitist opinion, that every credential is some kind of conspiracy, you've performed genuine stage magic. You have made people impossible to inform, and a population that can't be informed can't be warned. They will cheer for the very thing that is hurting them, because the only people who could actually explain what's happening have already been labeled as liars.
I love the like equals communism thing.
Expertise is very much a hostile takeover
Race mixing
of reality,
is communism.
which is wildly profitable.
Civil rights
Number
movement,
5, Imperial measurements. Okay,
Uh-oh.
this one is kind of low-hanging fruit, but I am picking it anyways because it is just
inches.
Beautifully absurd. America uses ounces and pounds and conflicting types of tons. We use gallons and a temperature scale that's not particularly pegged to anything.
I'm not a hater on the Fahrenheit thing. I think having that scale is great. And you do this with temperature for like outside, and like, okay, it's 0 is supposed to be freezing, right? Celsius, and 100 is boiling, but I don't really need to know like for temperature what is boiling, as far as like you use temperature to go outside, you know what I mean? It's never going to get 100 degrees outside. So your actual scale is actually much smaller, because, you go up to the 50s maybe, when you get into like what would be like 120 Fahrenheit. And kind of having the bigger scale of, because you can go below 0, of course, right, with Fahrenheit, and going up to 100, whatever. I don't know. I feel like there's more, it's actually more useful, especially for like weather. Fahrenheit I find is way better, because it can get more specific. You can do 92, 93 degrees, when it takes probably 3 degrees or something to change a Celsius degree. I don't know. Am I wrong?
For distances, we use inches, feet, yards, and miles. The entire thing is so weird and arbitrary that it feels like it was designed by a slightly drunk wizard who was trying to measure a giraffe. Yeah. Meanwhile, most of the planet uses metric, which is logical, scalable, and built on powers of 10. It is clean, and it makes perfect logical sense.
It does.
When you point this out, the American defense of Fahrenheit is always the same. Well, 100 feels hot, and 0 feels cold, even though it is completely arbitrary, and 0 is 32 degrees below freezing. We put humans on the moon, came home, and measured the achievement in yards, or the distance from the tip of King Henry I's nose to his outstretched thumb.
Let's go back to those. We used to do I've actually still done it, but teaching ancient Egypt and learning about measuring systems, and we get the kids to measure things in the bedroom, and you have like cubits or whatever, which I forget which one is which. It's like your elbow to your tip of your wrist. And we have all these people do it, and then we compare. But then the whole idea was, that, you know, the little smaller girl in my class and then the big tall basketball player had different measurements. So it's not really that useful.
But to all of you smug Brits watching, you are not on the metric system either, are you? You still drive in miles, you still order pints, you buy fuel in liters, but you measure your own body in stone, which is based off of a rock. So before you dunk on us, maybe finish switching your own country over first.
Yeah.
Glass houses, lads. Number 6, celebrity worship and manufactured distraction.
Absolutely.
I have to
For sure.
physically constrain myself on this one because it makes me genuinely want to deep throat a shotgun. But in the words of Enlightenment poet Slim Shady, hold your nose because here goes the cold water. Somehow Americans can recite the entire
Enlightenment philosopher. Yeah. I read his book. He wrote the foreword to John Locke's treatise on government.
Kardashian family tree, rank every season of Jersey Shore by drama level, and tell you the exact contract details of their favorite quarterback, but you ask the same person to name their own vice president, find Iran on a map, or split a dinner bill 3 ways without using their phone, and crickets. We have tabloids at every single checkout counter. We've turned watching strangers fight in a hot tub into a national pastime. We literally elected a scum of the earth kitty fiddling reality TV star billionaire serial felon con artist twice, and
Yeah, I've noticed he throws a lot of jabs at especially American conservatives. I've seen that a lot. He had Hannity up. He's done Trump a couple times, and then I think was this like the third Holy Koolaid video. Yeah, definitely theme going on in his show.
Our politics is now indistinguishable from celebrity gossip, complete with feuds, merch drops, and season finales. Now, the lazy take here is Americans are shallow, but that's not it. See, distraction is a product. It is manufactured on purpose at industrial scale, and it is sold to you for the price of your attention.
It's all resulting from capitalism. Capitalism is the reason for all of these things that we make fun of about the ignorance of the U.S., isn't it?
The Romans figured this out 2,000 years ago. Bread and circuses. Keep the population fed just enough and entertained constantly, and they will never notice who is robbing them.
Right. So food. Okay. So obviously fed people is it's necessary for the stability of a society. Rome obviously knew that. And even with the incredible amount of production that they did with food, you're still going to have those problems. That's what he's talking about. So they would like drop off, wagons of bread in times of scarcity. Right. And then the circuses, gladiator fights and things like that, entertainment, right, to keep people distracted. And the famous thing with the Romans was that I was often free, no charge, to be able to participate in these things. So the diversion tactic.
All we did was upgrade the circus. Now it is an algorithm in your pocket, engineered by the smartest people of the generation, whose entire job it is to keep you scrolling, outraged, and emotionally invested in the lives of people who do not give a shit about you or even know that you exist. Because a population glued to celebrity drama is a population not reading the bill that just passed, which took their rights away. A population doom-scrolling sports trades and reality show feuds is not organizing, protesting, unionizing, or asking why the rent just doubled. The distraction is a feature, not a bug. It's the most successful product American culture has ever built.
I still think it's more, because you were talking about like the nefarious part of it, for sure. I do think just the ability to make money off of all these distractions is such a driving force. It's just economics. It's kind of like supply and demand, and the demand is high, and the supply will follow. You notice with all of those things, like this is the Romans. With the Romans, it was about just keeping the people kind of happy, and they could control, because they're the ones who control the bread. They're the ones who control the circuses. But the thing is, the bread and circuses, the government does not really control. It's other citizens for each other.
And it is running exactly as designed. And again, this one isn't unique to America either, to be fair. The whole world is on the same phones now. But we did build the machine and export it. And billionaires and nefarious politicians around the world are watching and taking notes. Number 7, gun culture and manufactured fear.
Yeah, we know that's what people will definitely make fun of the Americans for. More gun than people.
To most of the developed world, American gun culture is fucking insane. And it is. School shootings on a recurring basis, children running active shooter drills, bulletproof backpacks on the back to school shelf, politicians wearing little AR-15 pins like a second flag. And
we haven't done active shooter drills like in my school. Well, I shouldn't say it. Never mind. We do. But in the sense of like lockdowns, like lockdown drills, right? We do that. We do probably at least a couple a year, a drill, maybe 2 to 3 a year. But that just simply is like, all we really teach the kids is, if you're already in a classroom, you get quiet, you actually move away from the door. Teacher will lock the door. We have ways of locking it quickly. Different schools will do that. You be quiet, you turn off the lights, and then you know how most school doors have windows. We cover them up. We have like a thing like this black thing that we tape on, right? So we do that, but we don't really ever talk about like, okay, there's like you actually see someone with a weapon or anything like that. We've had a couple trainings where like the police have come in and then like talk to us like as teachers about kind of what to do, what maybe you can do. And, but it's really not very intensive there, but it's kind of just a thing. We do it so much. It doesn't even mess with kids, same way you might do a fire drill. You know what I mean? It has that same emotional, I feel like, impact when you're doing that, which is none. I don't know if it's just desensitization or whatever.
Arming the algebra teacher like the math department is about to ship out to Fallujah. Now, I'm not going to pretend here like every country has an identical version of this, because they don't. Oh, except for maybe Somalia or something. This one is more of a distinctly us problem, and I won't insult you by both sidesing it. But let's look at the...
Remember, important to understand the context of why the gun culture comes in the United States is because the United States had to fight off an imperial force with a conscripted army of civilians. And when the United States gets its independence, right, and having fought off the British and got foreign aid and stuff like that, it was still believed, an impossibility that something like that could happen again, whether it's maybe the British coming back to like recolonize or another country does. So basically keeping the country in a permanent state of military preparedness is much of where it's the Second Amendment in our Constitution, and why it's such a big part of the culture, because of the context it came out of. It might make you think kind of differently, I guess, a little bit about why it exists. Now, the argument people make now likely is, are those type of threats still as valid as they were in the late 1700s about, another country coming in to try to recolonize you?
And underneath this problem. And I won't insult you by both sidesing it. But let's look at the engine underneath this, because it's the same engine running everything else that I have already mentioned. Fear is the most profitable emotion there is. A frightened person buys a gun, then a second gun, then the home security system, the supplements, the gold coins, the Jim Baker emergency food buckets. They deck out their doomsday prepper bunkers. They vote for the politician who promises to protect them from the monster of the week. Fear sells. Fear wins elections. Fear shuts off the thinking part of your brain like that. And just watch where this fear inevitably gets targeted. Never up. Never towards the people at the top who are rigging the game and stripping away your benefits and your rights. Always sideways and down. I don't want to paint the left like there's some blameless angels here, but in this area in particular, right-wing politicians are particularly nefarious. And they're all running the same playbook. Blame the immigrant. Blame the minority. Blame anyone poorer and more vulnerable than you. Gay people, trans people, unions, the teenager who just got an abortion, the black woman on food stamps, while the people who are actually emptying your pockets, who receive billions in tax subsidies, sit comfortably at the top watching us squabble. And when I say that this playbook is being used everywhere, I mean everywhere. I was in Warsaw during their Independence Day, and it has basically become an anti-immigrant Nazi rally at this point.
Sao Paulo shuts down its main avenue every Sunday.
Yeah, there's a nationalist movement that's always existed in every country. It rides waves of, going up and down and things like that. That's not unique to the US, for sure. They're often on the backs of immigration crisis, refugee crises, really what I should say. So, for example, like the wars in the Middle East and the wars in Africa have created a refugee crisis, especially in this past 25 years, where those immigration numbers coming from faraway places come into countries, which people feel is an encroachment, and then, you know, all the things that lead to anti-immigration. But so much it's a domino effect.
And has a far-right march. Even South Africans are rioting and are being whipped up into a xenophobic panic against immigrants. And even the people in the comments under these videos don't seem to realize who is actually benefiting from this distraction. A scared population is a controllable population. It is one that doesn't organize, unionize, or fight back because it is too busy arguing about bathrooms, drag queens, wedding cakes, a migrant caravan that's perpetually 2 weeks away, woke candy, red Starbucks cups, or whatever the latest panic of the week is, beaten like a piñata until the next one shows up. It is a population that will shut off its brain, hand over its rights, and hand over its money to the very people who are stoking the fears, keeping them paralyzed. Number 8, defunding education and keeping people stupid but useful.
It's interesting because now I can kind of chime in and tell you what I see kind of being caught in the world between obviously being regular, ordinary citizen, but then also seeing the internal structures of the education system, both within the schools and then what comes on top down of schools. Let's see what he's got.
If we put all of this together and add it up, we get a population that doesn't know how the rest of the world lives, that has been trained to distrust its own questions, a population that treats expertise as elitism, but views confident ignorance as truth, a population which is drowning in distraction and steered by manufactured fear. These are not...
We live in definitely the world where the pointing the finger is about indoctrination. That's such a buzzword, right? And distrust of professionals means that they were indoctrinated, and then someone will go like, I'm not indoctrinated, so I can go in some unbiased fashion to research something. But like we said earlier, there are also things that you cannot research without certain prerequisite knowledge levels to be able to do it. So then you get in this thing where your open-mindedness also leads you to false conclusions. But it's not to say necessarily that people that do have educations on subjects don't have some kind of bias that they could have inherited from some way, or being part of just the group think of the consensus within their fields and stuff like that. All of those are, I think, valid things when you talk about how you learn and where you get information from.
Unrelated problems. The people who actually own this country do not want a population capable of critical thinking. Critical thinkers are a threat. They sit around the kitchen table and start doing the math on how badly they're getting screwed. Those at the top want obedient workers, people just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to quietly accept it.
But what's going to be interesting now is those jobs are being eliminated. Automation is obviously changing the production side of the economy, of people being factory workers and the production workers. But then the other thing he was talking about, AI, right? So what's going to happen with those people? Because if the design was to create those types of people and now those people aren't needed anymore, then what happens? What kind of system now needs to be developed if we don't need to continue to make factory workers or people that can be replaced by AI? What's our system going to be? I think that's being figured out, being attempted, I guess, right now.
George Carlin said this cleaner than I ever could.
They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club. And you ain't in it.
The GOAT.
Just before the last election, I put out a video warning about Project 2025, the 900-page document published by the Heritage Foundation outlining the GOP's plan. The very first sentence...
I'll be interested now, circling back to, that was a big debate topic going into, 2020 election. But now that Republicans are in basically the power of the administrative and both branches of the legislative, how much of this plan... 2020 plan or whatever is actually happening. I don't remember. I used to, I think, know more about it, but it was also one of these things that was kind of seen. Was it not a hoax, but something very overstated and like overestimated in its power?
Of its chapter on education says that the federal Department of Education should be eliminated. Not reformed, eliminated. It calls for a phasing out of the funding that flows to schools in poor neighborhoods. It targets Head Start, the program that feeds and teaches the youngest, poorest kids in the country.
Now, their argument was to not all boards of education, but like the national one. That it was something created later in American history, but that should be repealed and give back to the localities. Right. So more like on state and district levels, which as a teacher, I'm like, that'd probably be great, I guess, something a little bit more close. But the design is definitely to be able to give certain areas that have probably more collectively certain types of beliefs that may become challenged, I guess. Maybe it's a certain politics of a place or a certain religious makeup of a place that the big intention was to give local power, especially to those places where then they can change educational curriculums that challenge some of those cultural beliefs.
And this isn't some hypothetical boogeyman. Since Trump came to office, the department has been getting dismantled in real time. Its functions have been shipped off to other agencies, with the president openly saying that he wants his education secretary to put herself out of a job. Killing it outright still takes an act of Congress, but the intent could not be louder.
Well, the one in his first term, what was her name? She was somebody that I believe kind of came out of like the more like the school voucher kind of community for that sort of thing and decentralizing it, but not a lot happened then, but see what happens now. I don't feel like that the education reform in that way is as much of a hot topic in this second Trump presidency that it was in the first. Anyone else kind of think? I think there's been so many things now with especially foreign policy kind of dominating American politics right now that's kind of overshadowed some of those things like education reform of what some people want.
Now, connect that last wire. Why would anyone want to gut public education in the richest country on earth? Why defund the one institution whose entire job is to make citizens harder to fool? Well,
because they think it's indoctrinating kids, that the government is indoctrinating kids.
An educated populace is the single greatest threat to people who profit from your ignorance. A kid who learns history can recognize a con that she's seen before.
The other one too that's behind it too, if you're more the also like the libertarian sense, was just to its use of taxpayer money. That everybody should be personally responsible, financially responsible for your own kids' education at that time, rather than a large pool, I guess, of educational funding that comes from taxpayer dollars that's spread out across districts and states and nationally.
Your ignorance.
Those are probably the two biggest things.
A kid who learns history can recognize a con that she's seen before. A kid who learns science can smell a grift. A student who learns to read critically can read a congressional bill and see exactly whose hand is in his pocket. That kid grows into the precise adult that the political architects are afraid of. They want you stupid because it's profitable.
I still haven't bought in fully to some of the nefariousness of this, just for the fact that if we were more authoritarian of a country, this would be a lot easier and have a lot more justification. But I still think it comes down probably a lot more to self-preservation of citizens in the country, and especially for their kids. When it comes to education, it's for their kids. With parents of certain fundamental views or certain political views that don't want their kids challenged by that. And then by extension, those people can either support or become politicians that then get involved with that. So it's about political expediency in a democratic country like this. It can get you on the ballot.
Smart enough to run the machine, too distracted, too scared, and too uninformed to ever question who built it. I think that there was a time when the rest of the world watched cringy videos of Americans saying you're doing dumb things, and they just laughed, and that was it.
Congratulations, Canada, on legalizing staplers.
But I don't think that they find it as funny anymore. They're watching the wealthiest, most powerful nation on earth get absolutely gutted. And honestly, it scares them, because if it can happen to America, it can happen anywhere. All right, deep breath, because I refuse to end this video on such a depressingly negative note.
Yeah,
with you feeling hopeless or perhaps
positive,
just a little
about
superior.
America.
That feeling is a trap too. All of that keeps you scrolling and doing absolutely nothing. So here's the truth that nobody is selling because there's no money in it. But it is the most important lesson that I have ever learned, and I discovered it entirely too late in life. Intelligence is not fixed. It is not a number that you're stamped with from birth. Your brain isn't a fixed size container. It is a muscle. And it grows with use at any age for anyone who is willing to put in the reps.
Does seem some people have more capacity to learn, but like everybody can learn, but maybe not to the speed of others. And I see that as students where like everybody's, every student is exposed to the same type of knowledge or whatever, but then some people get it quicker and some people don't. So everyone has the capacity to learn, for no doubt. But it'd be hard. I mean, let's all be honest. We all were stronger at certain school subjects, you know, for example. Just kind of way you think.
Every single thing that you do not understand right now is something that you are one decision and just a little bit of honest effort away from understanding. The more you push and stretch your brain just a little bit every single day, the easier it gets and the faster you learn. That is true. And I'm not talking about doing dumb little Sudoku puzzles. I'm saying actually go out and learn useful skills, learn how the world works, and learn.
I actually tell frustrated students that all the time, that like, you know, use like a analogy of strength, like of growing literal physical muscle strength, right? You point somebody out and you said, okay, that dude's really buff over there in our classroom. Do you think that's just how he was born? Do you think he could lift, you know, he benches whatever? Do you think that he was always able just to bench that? No. As you slowly start practicing, you start working out, you know, then you gain more and more capacity to be able to lift more. And your brain is it is like that. Like if you want to get better, if you're like, I'm not good at reading and all this stuff, read more. It'll actually get easier. You know what I mean? You'll start to click. You build upon it, right? Your brain's more like a balloon, right? So the more you put into it, the more it expands, which means that the more capacity it has to learn. But you got to blow into it.
How to think critically. When I was 17, my science education was less than worthless. And I swear I felt like the dumbest person in every single room that I set foot in. And now I'm running my own business. I'm interviewing some of the smartest people in the world. I'm speaking internationally at public conferences and creating videos on everything from astrophysics to archaeology to biochemistry. This is the genuinely exciting part. The greatest library in human history is in your pocket right now, or in your hand if you're watching this video on your phone.
But also is misinformation.
phone. The exact same device that has been feeding you outrage and reality drama can teach you economics, history, a new language, using LingoPie, of course. You can learn how your own government actually works and how to spot a scam while it is happening to you. You can watch entire semesters of college courses from Harvard or Yale for free on YouTube right now.
I think the most important thing about this era that we have, where there's so much good information, but there's also so much bad information, I think we're all going to have to deal with, is becoming way more comfortable with saying, I don't know, or I'm not sure yet. I think we're going to have to be able to have that mindset. Otherwise, again, we are going to continue to be duped. We got to be comfortable with nuanced opinions and maybe just saying, I don't know. A lot of people, their mind is in a way that shows weakness. If you tell somebody that, and because of our own self-preservation as biological creatures, we don't want to show weakness to somebody else. But it's the thing that might save us from destroying ourselves too, is being able to, again, be comfortable with the unknown and comfortable with holding nuanced opinions.
YouTube doesn't care which one you pick. The algorithm will happily feed you nourishment instead of junk. You just have to choose it on purpose. Think of it like food. Doom scrolling is empty calories, it kills time, but it leaves you weaker than when it found you, craving the next dopamine hit. But you are allowed to change your diet. Not what to think, how to think. Curiosity over certainty, questions over outrage. The slow, unglamorous, deeply satisfying work of becoming a person who is very, very hard to fool. And that is one thing that those pulling the strings can't stand. A curious, informed, critical thinking public is the exact thing that this entire machine was built to prevent. So become that person deliberately. It is the most quietly rebellious thing you can possibly do. Let's stop being American idiots and take our country back. If you're not sure where to start,
literally posted that
possibly do.
GIF. Yes, I still call it GIFs, as you should. The internet's spoken. During the World Cup, like the US would score, win a game, posting this.
American idiots and take our country back. If you're not sure where to start, I have a massive catalog of educational content here on my channel. So seriously, smash the subscribe button and turn on all notifications if you want to come along for the ride. I recommend starting with this educational playlist right here.
Nice. Final thoughts. All right, well, I shared my perspective, asked you guys plenty of questions. What do you guys think about this? About sort of the roots of whatever this ignorance is? Is it more top down? If it is, then who is it that's doing it? What is more responsible? Is it more willful power of government people? Is it just capitalists trying to take advantage of human nature to, make money for themselves? What's motivating it? What's fueling it? All right. With that, we'll see y'all next time. Bye.